So Jordan, our next speaker, he is the pre-sales manager for InEight, and we are very lucky to have him, currently located in Amsterdam, so thank you for making the trek over here, Jordan. And he has boots on the ground experience, 10 years of that experience in industrial power, oil and gas, and commercial building projects. And he is here to talk about how we can best leverage the power of data through the platform that InEight provides for. So welcome, Jordan.
All right, perfect. So Jordan Cannon, I don't need to introduce myself again. So glad to be here. We're going to be talking about, the theme today is about wisdom. And so what the heck is wisdom? We'll get there and talk about it, but it's really the transformation of how data in our industry turns into wisdom. So we'll see a lot of common themes in the sessions, from the sessions building up into this today. So without further ado, we don't need to know more about myself. Okay, so first, just a couple common trends. We're going to talk a little bit about the common trends in the industry, a little bit about InEight, and then move right into kind of a story of one of our biggest customers and how they really achieved wisdom. So a couple of common trends that are, out in the industry right now. It's the demand for construction is really outpacing our ability to deliver. The industry's ability to deliver, and these really build on each other. So that really need to reduce friction in the pipeline, and then more progressive and iterative project delivery methods, trying to be more iterative and progressive to really beat that problem of outpacing. And then what are also people doing to help that is to digitally transform, to become more efficient, become more productive. The productivity, the common theme we've heard in our sessions today. So a little bit about InEight quick, just to say who the heck is InEight and what are we doing here. So we have over 5,000 employees. There's over 550,000 people that are users in the software. We're across 60 countries. We have 8 offices. I am based and help run our EMEA office based out of Amsterdam. We're really a project management, program management, connected platform that's really connecting your people, your processes, and workflows really across the project life cycle. Just quickly what our platform looks like in terms of what we cover in the platform, and you'll see why we're talking about why this is a common theme, is that anywhere from the early capital planning all the way through into the operations, we have estimating, we have controls, we have scheduling, field solutions, you name it. It's really the whole all part to really manage project information, project scope and cost, risk, project information really across the whole life cycle. And the differentiator we are in the marketplace really is for a very connected solution. About 2 years ago, we had all the tools we really need in the market, all SaaS as of 2017. And then we really moved into more of a business process perspective. So we really focused on bringing those people, the stakeholders, from estimate phase when it goes into project award and into execution. So really the last 2 years, we're really focused on integration, and we'll see how that integration really falls into turning data into knowledge, into wisdom in that journey there. I kind of mentioned this already, but really it's spanning across the whole pre-planning phase all the way through operations. It's really important. And you'll see kind of common theme in the industry is disparate solutions, disconnected stakeholders when it moves across the different life cycles of a project. And that's where problems really lie, is that there's a lot of degradation of that data when it's moving from the early pre-planning. And then, it's awarded, maybe different stakeholders are involved, and it goes into the design, and then it goes into the next phases. There's a lot of data loss. There's a lot of uploads, spreadsheets, taken out of one system, putting in another system, and that's what InEight really does, connect that. So InEight's really solving that industry problem there. So enough about InEight. Let's talk about sort of a data maturity curve. So there is a progression of time. We heard a lot about this, where the first step is organizations really need to first identify that they need to transform. They need to identify that there's an issue. They need to be a data-driven organization. So it first takes that recognition and from the top down, right, to not only users or management. And then we talked a lot about yesterday, I did this, is document business process. I went to this one organization, they had bought Procore, and they had no policies, no procedures, no governance, and it was like, okay, wow, we need to take a step backwards, guys, because we're not going to get anywhere with the technology is not going to solve the problem. It's really also about the people and process, the 3 Ps of a successful business: people, process, product. You also need the process in place prior to investing in technology. And then as it goes up, I'm not going to hit all the points there, but really the ability to standardize your processes and project structure. That's a big part of, if you're going to collect clean, consistent data across your organization, obviously you need structure, you need consistency, you need standardization across your business, depending upon how it is, especially if it's at scale. It's very important to establish that structure. So that could be your organizational breakdown structure of how you're going to fit each project within their vertical. It could be account codes, how you're collecting data from all these projects in your portfolio. All the way up to that, then we need to digitize, we need to roll out tools, then you need to train and refine. All the way through the kind of the top level is the goal to get to is to really create a learning organization. And so this is kind of the transition of data curve and data maturity. A lot of people are very, very low. I think the industry is still probably on the left side of the curve here, and our goals are trying to meet that top right part of the curve to really be a data-driven learning organization. So what are these kind of 4 boxes here? And again, this reminds me of all of the morning sessions yesterday with Alex and Ian, if I pronounce that right, it was 2 different Ians, of the session yesterday, of where we have a bunch of data, and the problem is right now is it's all disparate, it's all disconnected, and so what do we need to do with this data? We got to do something with it. We need to turn it to information. And so once it's information, that means that companies have already implemented solutions in their business, and then they've started to share the data across their organization. And really now that's becoming into phase 2, called information. And then from information, a lot of people think, and this is where a lot of people are, that we got all this information, it's great, we're getting some KPIs, and it's good, but it doesn't stop there. And so really that next level is continuing to enhance the user experience, and really starting to use and drive making proactive decisions. And so we then turn that information into knowledge. So now we're at stage 3 of the data maturity curve. Now we're in knowledge. And then finally that next step, which is really the theme that we're going to get into here in a minute, and tell a success story of actual wisdom. And so that's really being able to predict and look ahead and future stop future safety events, predict, understand which jobs that are strategic to bid, et cetera. So, and we'll get into some examples of those. So what about this? We're going to dive in and just tell a success story of one of InEight's largest customers, down there on the right, Kiewit. I don't know why this box is here for. It's interesting because I'm in the pre-sales, but also very involved in the delivery and understanding where the success of our implementations are going. So it's really been interesting to see, when I've gone into business, to see where they're at in their journey and their how mature they are in their journey and their data. Right? I see something blocked the screen. Hold on. There we go. So these are a couple companies InEight is invested in and has been integrating our products. Kiewit, biggest customer, is the kind of most at scale of InEight's been delivered in part of their products for a really long time. So let's tell a success story of Kiewit. First, we talked about wisdom. What is wisdom? It's kind of interesting just to look at the definition quick. That it's experience, knowledge, and good judgment. So if we think about the data and the people, the tribal knowledge of all these people and all this, a business is really successful when they're very wise, they make good decisions, And that's really kind of anything in life, right, with wisdom. So a little bit about Kiewit for a minute. So they're they cross all verticals. You can see down there energy, mining, power. I actually came from Kiewit, their industrial power division, when I started my career. They're over 15 billion in revenue is close of 2022. They're up to 16.2 billion in 2023. Over 33,000 employees, and they're number 3 in ENR's list there. And then Warren Buffett, we threw a little quote in there. Warren Buffett and Kiewit share the same office in Omaha, Nebraska in the U.S. And I've always followed Warren Buffett's methodologies. He owns Berkshire Hathaway, if anybody knows that. Very famous investor, but kind of a common thing. He had something nice to say about Kiewit there. So here's kind of the first main thing to really hone in on here is Kiewit's search for their wisdom. They know they wanted it, so we're going to talk a little bit about their journey here. So they're privately held, still very profitable. So from 1980 to 2010, this metric here of productivity per staff year was 1 million per staff, meaning that they need 6,000 staff to get 6 billion of where they stand currently in their revenue. So they had the problem at this time, they were saying it was really flatlined in terms of they really wanted their productivity. They had to have a lot of staff to make a lot of money. We talked earlier, someone just said, you need a lot of people to make these small margins, so they wanted to find a way to make better margins with less people to be more efficient. And so they knew that becoming a data-driven organization was the first step in that journey for them. So in 2010, they at this point in time, they still had very disconnected solutions, a lot of in-house built solutions. Really the SaaS connected platforms really weren't out there yet. At this point in time, they have a lot of business units across their organization. They really weren't sharing data, so not a very good shared service model. And so they came up with a goal. They said, we want to increase this productivity per staff by 50%. So 1.5 million per staff year, so they can really increase their revenues with less people, more efficient. So let's talk a little bit about their journey and some early results and kind of what they did too. So their first decision was in 2010, they selected SAP as their ERP. It's the foundational piece of an organization is your accounting system, obviously. And then I think by 2000, so that's the first part is that they started to have some data, right, within their ERP system. And then they really needed to go kind of the InEight side. So by 2012, this is when InEight, they bought a company called Hard Dollar. People are probably very familiar with Hard Dollar. It was an estimating solution. It also had an execution side of the house. Kiewit bought that company, Hard Dollar, and brought it into their business and started integrating it with SAP. So by that point, 2015 came around. They had part of the InEight legacy solutions on-premise. They also had the SAP. They had started to integrate them. So we're now in phase 2. We had some data. We're now getting some information out of it with connected to an ERP system. So as we kind of move forward in time, this is when SaaS really started to come out, 2016, 2017, InEight launched their full SaaS platform, which Kiewit was the first customer and adopted. And at this point now we were really starting to have all of the tools in the marketplace. We had the project information, the project cost, the estimating, the schedules, all the components that they needed and integrated in an integrated manner to really start to kind of take it to that next level with knowledge. They started to really share their data across their organization. And then finally, kind of that final stage in 2022, very recent, they had enough data and enough time and enough knowledge where they took this knowledge and they started to take it to the next level and using it for wisdom. And we'll get into some data models here in a moment to see really how they're able to use all this knowledge and start to predict and look forward in the future. And so that most impressively in 2023 now, they are up to 6.2 billion or 16.2 billion in revenue. If you remember 2010, they were 6, so quite an increase. Over the 10 years, they had the biggest backlog in 120 years. And then kind of an impactful number there that's really hard to do is of 16.2 billion USD of work. They only had 11 million in job losses. So, that's less than 0.1% of the revenue degradation based on job losses, and it's pretty impressive for an organization to do that. And so, they reached almost their goal of that 1.44, the productivity factor that we were talking about earlier. It was 1, and they reached up to that 1.5. So they were able to have much less people, more efficient business, and gain those revenue goals that they were expecting. One of the data models that they looked at was, and they're using this as like some proprietary information here, but it's really the right jobs to bid. What are the right market sectors? What is our win ratio? So they really started to predict and understand where's our niche market area. And so they were using a lot of this data in InEight that was coming from and some of the information and results from the actuals, the things that were happening in jobs of what are we really going to go after. And so they started finding this niche area and predicting, where do the problem areas lie in the market of jobs we shouldn't bid. And so they really found their area based on some of these data models on where to really invest their time and spend on these particular. So one of the things, everybody knows the Standard & Poor's report, S&P. They basically said, there's no real way to reduce risk in an organization without becoming a data-driven organization. And Bruce Grucock, our chairman of COMIT, always speaks to a lot of customers of their story. We always remember back when Bruce, I was on a project and he came in and they had this big binder, long binder of a report about the job, and he was like, "What is this? Like, how am I ever going to understand what's going on the job with all this paper?" And so that was kind of the evolution of time back in 2010 when he realized that, and then where they really stand today. And so he, obviously mentioned that InEight is the foundation of that, and it's not sitting up here being a sales pitch about InEight, but it's really enables a full CDE platform to really start with that initial data, start connecting people and turning that into knowledge, and now the final step of wisdom there. So final slide here. Let's climb this pyramid together to get from that data to the information to the knowledge to the wisdom there. And so the industry's creeping their way up that pyramid, but sales pitch, come join InEight and we'll help you climb that ladder. Thank you. If I didn't go through that.
Thanks, Jordan.